assumption is that you've already read the instructions for this exercise, and not only in the e-college but also in your textbook. And I'm going to walk through setting this up for the very first of the exercises. You are going to have multiple worksheets within this one spreadsheet. You're going to have your initial pro forma income statement, then you're going to have your information specifications for every one of those questions that's in your book, and you're going to have a test your design for each one of the values 1 through 4 on page 527. But once you get this one set up correctly, all you have to do is copy that worksheet into a new worksheet. Like, for example, here we're going to be copying this one to this next worksheet, and then you'll just be changing the values to do a what-if analysis. So that's the point of this whole thing, is to do a what-if analysis. So the first thing you should do is you can either do this on a separate worksheet, or you can drop down a few lines, like down to line 39 or row 39, and enter your assumptions that are given to you in your book. The base period sales are given as $3,750,000, and that is located in cell address B43. Now remember, you must use cell addresses in your calculations. You do not want to use the actual values, because when those values change, which they're going to do all the way through each one of these worksheets, you want the cell address to be right so that the value in the cell address can be changed, and you don't have to retype all of this multiple times. Now, to give you an example, for us to calculate the amount of sales that were attributed to deli, we're going to multiply 5% times the base period of sales, and that's going to give us the portion of those sales that were attributed to deli. So in our pro forma income statement, you're going to set it up just like this. You don't have a beginning data file to work with. You're going to have to set this up yourself. You're going to put in the calculation cell B43, which is where I said our total sales was located, and multiply that times the value in B46. Remember, the value in B43 is the base period sales, and the percent of sales for deli is in B46. Why is B43 surrounded in dollar signs? That denotes an absolute cell reference, meaning that I always want to use the value in B43 all the way through these calculations. So if I copy this particular formula and paste it down through the rest of these cells, notice they didn't change, because in dairy I wanted to go to B47. In canned goods I wanted to move to B48, B49, B50, all the way to video sales B53. But in each case I'm multiplying the net sales, or the base period sales, times this percentage of sales for each of the store items. So I have relative cell addressing happening here when B46 changes to 47, 48, 49, relative to the new location. And I also have absolute cell addressing happening here, because each one of those remained B43, because that was where my total sales was located. Now, to make sure this all adds up, you need to do a sum here of these preceding values, simple sum function. And moving on, we're going to do our cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold is the amount that our goods cost us. And you again in your assumptions table have the cost of goods sold for each of the store items. Now in this case, each one of them are different, and you're going to be calculating those based upon the sale of that item. So we're not going to use this base period sales this time. We're going to multiply 50% times this total sales of deli. This one would be complete relative cell addressing. If you'll notice, I selected cell C7, which is the total sales for deli, and and multiplied that times C46, which is where my cost of goods sold percentage for deli is stored. And notice, these are relative. They're 47, 48, 49, 50. Moves all the way down the rows. Back in our calculation then, I can copy this formula and move it straight down, because the very next value of sales is for dairy, and that's in C8. And its cost of goods sale percentage is located in C47. So if I copy this and paste it all the way through video sales, then you'll notice I'm on C14, video sales, times C53, which is the percentage for cost of goods sold. Okay, so you're using cell addresses. Notice what happens. What if I change cost of goods sold for video sales to 50%? Now, the power of Excel changed that value, didn't it? It's 28,125. Let's take it back to what it was before. It was 30%, 16,875. See the power of using a cell address versus the actual number. Going on, your operating expenses are going to be calculated just like the sales. You're going to use a percentage of sales to calculate sales and marketing, general and administrative. Your depreciation is given to you as a flat value. But you also should use a cell address for that, because what if we change that depreciation? You only want to have to change it in one place. Wages offers us a big challenge. So this looks like a big mess right here, but it's really not difficult to understand if you break it apart. Notice they're all absolute cell addresses, so that tells us it's coming from our assumptions table. And it says we're multiplying B59 times F59. All right, let's take a look. B59 is the hourly wage, and F59 is the number of employees. So we have 17 people that make $13 an hour, and we multiply that times 50 weeks out of the year they work, times 40 hours per week. So what we've said is we have 17 people that make $13 an hour, 50 weeks out of the year, 40 hours per week. Nobody makes any overtime. That's one set of salary values. Then we're adding the salary for the store manager and the salary for the assistant manager in F56 and F57. So that looks ugly, but it's very simple to actually calculate. The common cost is where the owner's salary is calculated. Now what you notice in your text, it tells you that the owner's salary is based upon the gross profit. So if there is not a gross profit, then we don't want his, or we went negative, we don't want him to have a negative salary. Therefore, we're going to use an if statement to verify our data. If you'll notice, this says if the value in C26, if you look at C26, here is our gross profit. If it's greater than 0, meaning we actually made a profit, then the value, the then statement is the next, after the next comma. That is what we're going to do if the value is true. So C26 is greater than 0 is a true statement. Therefore, we're going to multiply the value of C26, the gross profit, times that value in F55, which was the percentage that the owner gets of gross profit for his salary. Else, in other words, if the gross profit is negative or 0, then his salary is 0. And that's what that says. If C26 is greater than 0, then give us this calculation, the value of C26 multiplied by his percentage. Otherwise, just put a 0 there. And you'll note down here in your assumptions table, the percentage is stored in that F55 cell. So what we've done is if we've taken all these percentages, based them off the assumption of sales in 2008, and created this worksheet. The next step is simply to make this move forward. We're actually going to do a forecast. We are saying that the 2009 sales is going to be 6.25% greater, right here, than the 2008. So we simply do the calculation. We take the value of C7, which was 2008 sales, and increase it by the percentage in F46. And we're going to use an absolute cell address there, so when we copy this, that value will not change. It's absolutely going to stay F46. You'll do that exact same calculation all the way through. Now, when you're ready to, when you've got this one finished and you're ready to move on to your information specifications, simply make a copy of this particular worksheet, your very first one, and you can rename it. You can rename it to your information specification question X, for example. And when you make the change that it tells you to make, then you're going to notice that the calculations are going to change all the way through. So let's say, for example, this is just an example. Let's say that we said deli was 5%, but we really think deli was more like 7%. That will automatically change this value for you. So it's absolutely imperative that you use cell addressing and then copy the worksheet, look at the instructions in your textbook, and make those changes to that particular worksheet. And you'll notice here's the one for the first question, and I have stored this as I want you to do with the formulas on. You're going to do this for each one of the instructions. So when you save your spreadsheet the last time, before you submit it to me, I want you to go to the, first of all, set it on the initial pro forma income statement. Make that your active cell. Go to the Formulas tab, select Show Formulas, and save your worksheet, your spreadsheet that way, and do that on each one of your worksheets so that I can take a look quickly at your formulas. Please do that. It makes it grading much, much quicker. If you have any problems or questions, be sure that you ask me in Facebook, and the deliverables are listed on page 527, and I explain those in eCollege. Thanks.